Good morning, everyone. Beautiful sunny morning here this morning, and the wind's died down. And we have Greg with us. And Greg is probably the busiest person in this retreat centre because he looks after the whole property. And there's always something needs fixing or doing. And yesterday a big tree fell down the bottom of the property and he had to rush down there. And but today he's going to talk about something different, about the animals and the bush, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Sally. So how's everyone going? How are you handling all this time at home? I just thought it might be nice to do something a bit different today. I don't know, it wasn't that long ago that we were concerned about bushfires and the aftermath of them, actually, because a lot of people are concerned about how the animals survived and how they handled what was going on in the bushfires. And I thought it might be worth just talking about, I think we actually underestimate how much animals actually feel, and we as a human being underestimate how much we impact on them, even with our thoughts. So I thought we'd talk about that today. And to be honest, I'm just going to tell you stories about my interactions with animals over the years, because they help to give you a feel for how much animals really do take from us as human beings. So the first story starts in the mid-70s, and this was when I was a survey technician for a large surveying firm in Sydney, and we were surveying high voltage transmission lines in Western Sydney. And in those days, in the 70s, Western Sydney was farmland. There wasn't a lot of suburbs, maybe Penrith and Mount Druitt, but in between there was just farmlands. And so on this particular day, the surveyor was set up underneath a high voltage power tower, and I went ahead to the next tower. My task was to knock a wooden stake, 2 foot high wooden stake that wide, into the ground, and I was using the back of an axe. Very, very simple technology we used in those days. So anyway, I was whacking this stake into the ground with the back of the axe, and the axe sort of hit the edge of the stake and went into the side of my boot. I yelled a bit, but it was okay. I didn't bother about it. And then I looked down, and there was a gash in the side of my boot, and I started to feel a bit of pain, but then I noticed blood was starting to ooze out the gash. Sorry about the gory stuff on a Sunday morning. Anyway, I yelled out to the surveyor to come and help, and as soon as I did, the field that I was in was actually full of cows and horses, and there was about 15, 20 of them. And as soon as I yelled out in anguish to the surveyor to come and help me, every one of those animals stopped. They looked up and looked at me, and they didn't move. They stayed looking at me. It took the surveyor a couple of minutes to get up to me, and that whole time the animals just stayed looking at me. When the surveyor got to me, we started having a normal conversation because things weren't okay, really. And as soon as they could hear the calmness in our voices, they then went back to eating the grass, put their heads down and eating the grass. And it touched me very deeply that it sort of showed me that animals actually pick up things much deeper than we realise. So the next story, 10 years later, I'm in the Congo in Africa with a friend, and we're looking for gorillas. We had 4 guides, and we're walking up this roadway, and all of a sudden we stopped. The guide said, "There's a gorilla here," because there was a female gorilla they could see up in a tree, and they said, "Okay, so gorillas hang around in groups." there'll be a group here. So they started slashing into the side of the vegetation on the side of the road so that we could see more clearly what was going on. They called us over. We went to the edge of the bank, and it's a very steep bank. About 10 metres down, there was a young gorilla. And the guide said, "The troop's here. This is a young gorilla, so the lead male gorilla will be around here somewhere. And if it sees you, it will charge you. So what I want you to do is stand your ground and raise your hands in the air and wave them around, and it'll stop." Okay, so anyway, the gorilla comes out of the bushes, it sees us, and it charges up this bank at us. And it was as if this bank didn't exist. It just charged straight up at us. Now look, when a 6 foot high, 500 kilogram male silverback gorilla charges at you, you don't stand there waving at it, you run away. So we ran away. Now the guides have seen all this sort of thing before, so they rushed to the top of the bank. They raised their arms and their rifles in the air and waved. And the gorilla charged up the bank and stopped about 2 metres in front of them. And when it stopped, it looked around and then saw a clearing and went over to that clearing to the side and grabbed hold of this tree, that size in diameter, I suppose, and just broke it in half and started gnawing on the base of this tree. And the guide said, "Okay, he's shown you he's the boss, you can go closer to it." So we walked within 15 metres of this gorilla. And so what the gorilla had done was actually said, "Look, I'm the boss here. I've just shown you I'm the boss, but I'll allow you to come into my territory if you understand that this is my territory." So it was showing that it had power. The next story, another 5 years later, maybe, I'm a ranger in Sydney Harbour National Park. At the end of the day, I was driving home down Middlehead Road at Mossman, and we were driving through a Angophora costata forest. It's just above the naval base down there at Middlehead, and I noticed on the side of the road a little ringtail possum, about that big, just sitting on the side of the road. And this was daylight, 4:30 in the afternoon, something like that. Now, possums like that are nocturnal because they're very timid, and so they don't normally hang around in the daytime. So I thought there was something wrong. So I stopped the car, I got out and I walked over to this possum, and it didn't move, just sat there. It actually allowed me to pick it up. Now the claws are so small and the teeth are so small that it didn't bite, it just hung on to me actually. And I'd just finished a 3-day animal handling course at the zoo, so I decided, oh, look, I'll take it around to the vet at the zoo and see if there's something wrong with it. Anyway, I took the possum around to the vet, and he said, ringtail possums are very sensitive, and if they're attacked, they can actually die of fright. Not necessarily that they're the attack that kills them, it's actually the fright of the attack that kills them. So the next story is only 4 or 5 years ago, I suppose, and I'm now living here in the centre. I was going over to an appointment in North Katoomba, and I was driving over there and I noticed this dog on the side of the road on a curb below us, a group of casuarina trees, and it was just standing on the curb looking at something in the gutter. It wasn't moving, it wasn't growling or barking or snarling or anything, it just very contently, with its head down close to the gutter, looking at this thing in the gutter. And I thought, this is a bit strange, there must be something there. So I stopped the car and went over to the dog, and in the gutter was another little ringtail possum. It was alive, but it wasn't moving much. And so I picked it up. And as soon as I picked the possum up, the dog went, okay, you're looking after it now, I can go. So the dog was actually showing compassion for that possum because it was concerned about the possum, and as soon as it realised that I'd taken control and was looking after it, it was, okay, I can go now. So those horses and cows at the start, they were showing concern. The gorilla was showing that it had the power, but it was allowing me into its territory once it had shown that it was the boss. The ringtail possums can die of fright. And that dog was showing compassion for that little injured possum. So animals actually feel much more deeply than we realise. I mean, I've seen someone hit a dog and it'll bark, so they feel gross physical pain, but I actually think they feel much more subtly than that. And I think we actually underestimate how much what we think and what we vibrate as a human can actually impact on animals. And so my next set of stories is about actually how what we're thinking positively impacts on animals. And we run meditative gardener retreats here on weekends 3 or 4 times a year. And the aim of the retreat is to actually show people how to learn to meditate while they're in actions. And so in one particular retreat, we'd done a little class and we'd gone outside to do some gardening. And Jessica, my wife, was gardening in front of the stone cottage and very contently gardening, pulling out weeds or Montbretia bulbs, I think it were, in the garden. And in this really meditative state, and a kookaburra came and landed on her head. And you'll see that picture on the website. The introduction to this program today, that picture is on that website. So that kookaburra was actually feeling the vibration that Jessica was giving off and felt safe with it. So it was happy to land on her head. He was actually using her head as a vantage point. Of course, he was closer to the worms. But anyway, so we totally underestimate how we impact on animals on a spiritual level. So my next few stories are about positive impacts of that. And the first story is, it would have been probably 20 years ago when Jessica and I were building our house. I was sanding the windows at the front of the house and because I wanted to paint them, and I'd been working for about an hour. It was quite warm, and so I decided I need to sit down for a minute just to rest a bit. So I walked over to a bench we had underneath a banksia tree. Now this banksia tree was quite low, so the branches were quite low. I could reach one here, a metre, arm's length away, and another one here, an arm's length away. I sat down on this bench and I thought, I think I'll send peace into the garden. So I saw myself as a soul, connected to the Supreme Soul, and sent peace, the thought of peace, into the garden. And within seconds, a yellow robin came and landed on this branch. And it just sat there. It didn't move, it just sat there. The yellow robins are about that big. So they don't just sit around, they're always on guard for predators and things like that, but it just sat there. And I was sending this peace into the garden. For some time it just sat there, and then all of a sudden it flew away, and as soon as it flew away, a rose robin came and sat in the same spot. And I was still sending peace into the garden, and this rose robin just sat there some time. And then it flew away, and as soon as it flew away, a white-throated tree creeper came and landed on this branch. Now, the way white-throated tree creepers work is they fly down to the bottom of a tree, then hop up the tree looking for insects under the bark, fly down to the next tree, hop up that. They don't sit on branches. They very rarely sit on branches. But this tree creeper just sat there while I was sending this peace into the garden. The next story I walked out the front door of our house and then up a couple of stairs to the ground level. Right in front of me is a large liquid amber tree, and just to the left of me is I think it's the gutter for the house. So I did the same thing. I went up the stairs and I thought, I'm going to send peace into the garden. So I did that. Saw myself as a soul, connected to the Supreme, and sent the thought of peace into the garden. And immediately a king parrot came and landed on the gutter, a few metres away from me. But just below it was a bird bath. And I thought, because we could see that bird bath just outside the window and from the kitchen, and the spinebills and the thornbills often come and drink at it. So I thought, maybe the parrot wants to go down to the bird bath, but I'm too close, so I better move away. So I moved away, but the parrot didn't fly down to the bird bath. It flew to a branch just above my head. And it started walking down the branch towards me. And I thought, and I'm still sending peace into the garden. And I thought, this bird is actually following me. So I walked over to another tree 4 or 5 metres away, kept sending peace into the garden, and the parrot flew over to the tree next to me and started walking down the branch to me. That bird could feel that vibration. Now, the next story is similar. I walked up the same set of stairs, out the front door, into the garden, in front of the liquid amber. I thought, I'll send peace into the garden again. I did that. And immediately a thornbill came and landed on the branch just above my head. And thornbills are the smallest of birds. They're tiny. And they fly around in little flocks because the flocks is a protection. One's constantly on guard, looking for predators. But this was on its own, and it landed on the branch and was hopping down this branch towards me. It only got a few feet away from it, and it was squawking madly. It was getting so close I could actually see down its throat. But it wasn't scared. And I think the thing with all these stories is that it's not just that the animals were there because it was nice and peaceful. They were coming because they could feel the peace and they wanted the peace. And that's the thing, I think. I think, unfortunately, I actually think that animals can sense the way human beings are feeling. They can sense the vibrations that human beings are giving off. And the way the world is at the moment is a very angry and nasty place, and animals, I think, are actually frightened of us because they can feel that vibration that we're giving off. And so those bushfires that occurred recently made me think it's now actually time to maybe give something back to the animals, because there's a lot of people have donated money to rehabilitate animals, and there's a lot of people who are offering to volunteer to look after sick animals, but not all of us can do that. What we can do is actually sit in meditation and send some vibrations of peace and love to the animals in the world. And it's a proactive thing, because these stories have shown that animals can actually feel, and they can feel those good, positive vibrations. So maybe if you've got a bit of time, let's do a little meditation now. Maybe a meditation that's slightly different to what we're normally doing, but it's a meditation that we can do at any time. So if you're looking at this a bit later on, feel free to do the meditation, because your vibration will add to that all of us are doing now. So sit quietly and comfortably. And just go within. If you're good at visualizing, see yourself as a soul, a point of light. But if not, just have the awareness that I am a soul. Now take yourself straight up to the Supreme Soul. a soul just like you, but a soul full of love and peace. And just take the light of that soul into you. Just for a few seconds, take it, that light, the light of love and peace. Now all of a sudden in front of you, all the animals on the earth have congregated. They're all sitting in front of you, side by side, row after row, all sitting next to each other. They're not concerned about who they're next to. They're just looking at you because you're sending the light of love and peace to them. Row after row of animal, just sitting quietly side by side. Send love and peace to all those animals. Just have that thought, I'm sending love and peace to all the animals on the planet. You can see them in front of you. Or just have the awareness that they're there because they can feel it. Just see that light going from you to all those animals. They seem to be smiling. Keep sending that light. No matter how far back they are on the queue, they'll still feel it just as powerfully. Now turn to your left, just slightly. And there's a forest of trees, and in those trees is every bird on the planet. They're all here. They've all come to you to take light from you. Sitting side by side on the branches, so send light to all those birds. Now turn your attention to the right of all the animals. A huge body of water. And all the underwater animals have congregated near the surface of the water. All the fish, the turtles, the tortoises, the whales, the seals, they're all there side by side as well. Now send light to them. Human beings are scared animals. So it's time for us humans to give some love back to them. Some peace back to them. And you've probably seen with your if you've got a pet, a cat or a dog or something, that when you're loving to them, they're loving to you. So thank you for that. Just one last story. We have a girl who comes here from time to time to do retreats, and she was saying she'd got so much out of the meditation that she lives in Surrey Hills, and she lives in a terrace, and she set up a meditation room in her attic. And what she was saying was she's got a cat, and she used to get up at the same time every morning to go up and meditate. And every morning the cat would come and be with her at the time when she was getting up and go up the stairs with her to the meditation room, and the cat would stay with her while she was meditating. Every day that would happen. Animals can feel it. So if you've got a bit of time over the coming days, spend a bit of time to send a bit of the vibration of love and peace to the animals of the world. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Greg. That was beautiful, wasn't it? So lovely to think of that like that. That they're really so caring, the animals. And I've got a little story to finish. We were driving in a bus, a big bus of Brahma Kumars and Kumaris going up Mount Abu to our headquarters. And on the side of the road, there were about 10 monkeys sitting there on the side of the road. And one monkey said to the other, pointing to us, "I never really did believe that they came from us." Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you. Beautiful.